Right, then it's going to be a very, very important window for Manchester United, and I wanted to look at 5 free agents that Manchester United can grab at a steal that will add some quality to our team. Now, in my opinion, you do not make a team better by adding depth and padding out the bench. You make a team better by improving the starting 11. Now, some of these players would go into the starting 11 and start week in, week out, and some of these would probably be adding a little bit of depth. But I think I can accept adding depth when the players are going to come in and be free. No transfer required. There's obviously going to be big investments into a striker, potentially big investments into another midfielder, maybe even a centre-half. But we're not going to be able to spend £100 million per position, so I do think that there has to be a way of finding players that are going to deliver us a bit of an option. Now, at number 1, I think there's a player that probably starts for Manchester United, and no two ways around it, in all honesty, and that is Adrien Rabiot. Now, I know the name isn't the most exciting, and I know there's loads of people who's got in and says, oh, Rabiot. However, the guy can play. It's no way about it, and he's got a lot of experience being the deepest player. He can be a single pivot in a 4-3-3. He can be a double pivot in a 4-2-3-1, and he can do both jobs excellently. He's also been a little bit more advanced in midfield when he's played, usually in a 4-4-2. He is the profile of a box-to-box midfielder. When I look at what this squad needs, bar the obvious in a striker, there isn't really a genuine box-to-box midfielder, and I think that Rabiot could be one. And on a free transfer, I think he makes a hell of a lot of sense. Very useful on defensive transition because he's got an amazing reading of the game. He covers back quickly into positions. He's very energetic, and he's really efficient at guarding against counter-attacks. Now, he covers the ground quickly because he's got very long strides. He's got very powerful running ability, and it makes him very effective moving across the pitch, covering ground and stopping counter-attacks with just raw athleticism. And he can protect the ball really well under pressure. He's quite pressure resistant, and that comes probably more from physicality than it does technique. But he can play. And he's dangerous in and around the box. He's good at set pieces. He's just come off his best goal scoring season, 11 goals and 6 assists in all competitions. Individually, probably his best season to date. Entering his career at his prime. Good time to move to Manchester United, in my opinion. Second, Marcus Thuram. Now, Thuram's movement is probably one of his greatest strengths. He has got unbelievable bursts of pace, very explosive movements, and he wins a lot of his duels just by being too quick. He holds his position really well, doesn't always get drawn towards the play, but instead he opts for positions that make it difficult for defenders to see him, and his reading of what the opposition are going to do is very intelligent. And I like that about him. And I think that cleverness off the ball, knows when to get up against the player, maybe use the player's momentum to roll him, or when to play in the space. I think that's instinctual and you can't really train that. And I think he's got it and he understands it really well. And he's converted seamlessly from being a winger into being a centre forward. And because a lot of people do that trajectory, people think it's easy, but it's not. When you're a winger, most of your life is spent facing the opposition goal. You're trying to receive the ball with it in front of you. You're often running in behind. You're looking to face people up and go around them. There's a lot more room in the wide areas and the half spaces than there is in the centre of the pitch. When you convert to being a striker, now most of your game is spent with your back to the goal, watching what's going on in front of you. If you're up against an opposition that plays in a high line, sometimes you'll have the opportunity to run in behind. But for the most part, you're going to be facing that way. And can you hold it? Can you roll? Can you maybe arrive at the right time in the box to get on the end of stuff? It's a totally different position. And just because it's one of the ways that you see young strikers getting opportunities to play matches, because the over-reliance on a single striker means that you're not going to throw like a young 18, 19-year-old lad in there to learn his trade. You're going to make him, have games on the wing before he comes into the middle. People think that it's like a natural progression. It's not. It's very difficult to sort of be very good at one and transition that into being very good at the other, unless you're an absolute talent. Now, he's 6'3", and he's got a significant threat from crosses because of that, and he's a real viable outlet on a direct ball. He is a good, strong focal point, but he's obviously got a bit more versatility because he is comfortable as a winger, as well as being a bit of a bruiser as a 9. And he's just had a really strong breakout season, 16 goals and 7 assists in all competitions. Really good willing runner, and I think that'd be something Ten Hag likes about him. An excellent work rate. So I think Marcus Thuram on a free. We've been talking about the need for 2 strikers. I think we're going into the market. I don't think our main striker is coming on a free, but I think you could easily pick up somebody on a free, including the next man. Now, the next man's out of favour a little bit. Now, Moussa Dembele is a way more traditional number 9, but he's coming on the back of a shit season. And the shit season, and the fact he's on a free, and he probably would be coming in as second choice to someone has got all the hallmarks of someone that could come in and become a cult hero. And he could be revitalised by a Premier League move. I think he suits Premier League football, man. The movement in behind that he's got is absolutely elite. He's got really clever positioning. He's got phenomenal off the ball and lateral movement. He can finish with both feet. He's really, really skillful. And he is a bit of a complete striker. He's extremely proactive inside the penalty area. And I don't know what's happened to him this year. A couple of years ago, he was on my lips. He was on everybody's lips for being a striker that could come in and do bits at Manchester United. Whatever's gone west for him, it could just be one season. It's definitely worth looking at. And he's free. Why wouldn't you take a risk on him? Moussa Dembele on a free, or even Marcus Thuram on a free. There's some phenomenal signings that could be picked up here, and United could do an absolute madness by snapping them up. The fourth one, we've spoken about this one before. And this is going to depend on how Manchester United go. If they opt for a Mason Mount and we get a striker in, that's probably most of your budget dealt with, especially with the Kim Min-jae rumours turn out to be correct as well. So someone that's going to give us a little bit more depth and potentially cover for being a bit, as we said, we haven't really got a genuine box-to-box. And that's Youri Tielemans. He would cover the box-to-box role, but he could cover more than that. He could cover deep central midfielder, box-to-box. He could cover the advanced playmaker. He could do a combination of those because he's got a properly good footballing IQ. Another person that's not had the greatest of seasons, but again, available on a free, and therefore probably worth the risk, I think. A ton of Premier League experience, a ton of, not just Premier League experience full stop. This is a guy that's got a lot of experience despite not being overly that old. Now, he is linked with Aston Villa, and I think the fact he's £70 million cheaper than Mason Mount, I like him. He's still in the top 15% of midfielders in Europe for expected assists, passes attempted, progressive passes, and he's in the top 20% for shot creating actions and blocks. Leicester did not have a good season. He still did all right. And then I've got a bit of a wild card one, really, and this is genuinely wild card. He's got Premier League experience. He's just been on loan at Arsenal. And he can play in a pivot, in behind a striker, or as an 8. And that's Dani Ceballos. I told you it was a wildcard one. He has a great technical talent, but I see why some people might not fancy him. But he's on a free. Great feet, great agility, very press resistant, really tenacious and aggressive for his size. Comfortable between the lines. I think this is a pretty good option, to be honest. Really good spatial awareness, and he's only 26 years of age. 5 players right there. 5 players right there. Did they make Manchester United? Listen, my promise to you guys at the start of the video is I've got some players here that are going to make Manchester United better. Some of them will start, some of them will probably be a little bit more rotational options. I've just given you 5 players. Do you agree those 5 players there are enough to make Manchester United better? I'm not saying that those guys will win the league. We still need probably the core sorting out, don't we? But if you've spent money on the core, what do you reckon? Is that making us better? Let me know in the comments. See you in the next one. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, 5-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.